Welcome everybody, friends, colleagues, listeners, anybody that's just tuning in for the first time. Got a great guest this morning, and he's somebody that I've listened to a lot, admired a lot, and he's great company. And it's a real big welcome to have this gentleman. Before I announce who it is, I need to say that being somebody who specialises in most languages, this is going to be very easy for me to state his name. And the person I'm talking about is Stavros Evangelakakis.
Yes, perfect.
And I hope that came just as you would expect any local Greek to say so.
For one moment, I thought you were Greek. Really,
hey,
very nice.
Me too, my friend. Me too, my friend. Now, another good thing is the name actually means cross and a messenger of good news. So if ever we needed a messenger of good news, now Stavros. So thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. Really
great
appreciate
pleasure.
it. Also.
Now, Stavros is currently the global product manager for Cargolux, and he's also chairman for the Cool Chain Association. So Stavros, can you just tell us a little bit about how you got in and when? And obviously we know it's some time ago, well in excess of 20 years, although you don't look it. But if you can let us know how you got into Cargolux and then where your travels took you towards Pharma and Cool Chain.
Yeah, it's a bit of a longer story, but I try to make it short. I started in Cargolux back in '88, and it has been a journey since then. I had nothing to do with cargo. I actually started hotel apprenticeship, and I was working at the Hotel Intercontinental Corporation. And this hotel opened a hotel in Luxembourg, and I had been requested if I wanted to become the night manager of this hotel in Luxembourg. And during this time, or during the year I was working there, Cargolux had a meeting there, a sales meeting there. And I got to know people, and I was always fascinated and interested to work in an airline. And when that person, she started talking to me, said, well, we are a cargo carrier and we always look people like you. And one thing led to the other. It took me a couple of months, and then I started in Cargolux, and I thought, okay, you know, whether I am dealing with people in the hotel or I'm dealing with boxes in a cargo airline would be perfectly the same. But of course, I was completely wrong. But whatever I learned from the hotel, I could definitely take it over in Cargolux, and being able to meet new people and through the traveling and meeting, and every day in cargo is different. That's the nice part. So I started there, as I said, 3 decades ago, and I was it was a journey. I went in reservations. From the reservation, I was in sales. I was in marketing. I was in corporate marketing, and then I went back to sales for Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And back in then 2005, we had this chance of a forwarder and a shipper from the pharmaceuticals who came over to us and asked, "Can you handle pharmaceuticals?" And we said, "Sure, pharmaceuticals should be the same like perishables, right? We know how to deal with that, because already almost our first flight was actually based on perishables." And so they came over, and the forwarder and the shipper, and we went to the warehouse. We showed them what we do, and they said, "Okay, great, we're going to start." And after that, they said, "Okay, we'd like to make an audit about you." And that's when I realized
that's when things changed. Huh?
That's when things changed. And when I called the forwarder, when I saw all the questions, I called the forwarder and said, "Please, can you come over and go through this, because we're probably going to fail miserably." And it was actually very nice that this shipper came. And in the beginning, it was a pain in the ass. But after, he became a personal friend, because he also brought us a different knowledge about pharmaceuticals, what it all takes. So we have seen it as a really friend, and it was quite interesting to see. Yes, perishables is the same like pharmaceuticals, but they have so many much more requirements. And what I learned there was that honesty pays off. I learned to say to the pharmaceutical companies, yes, we can, or we cannot do it.
And it's more important to be able to say, no, you can't.
Exactly. Cut the crap on the side to say, no, we cannot do it, because every destination has its own challenges. Every destination is different. Every hub is different. And since then, of course, a fantastic journey started, because then the shipper would go out and promote Luxembourg and promote the forwarder. And then, of course, other shippers got interested and say, who is this carrier? Who is Cargolux? Because before, cargo carriers did not really play a big role in pharmaceuticals. And yeah, one thing led to the other. Then I was asked to go to the other forwarders to present. And last time I pulled out my first presentations about our process, and I was thinking to myself, oh my God, how were you able to go out there and do these things? But, you know, we learned from it, and it started a big, big journey. And I'm very, very proud to work for a company like Cargolux, because we managed to have an aircraft thermal analysis. That means, you know, we had an aircraft, and the aircraft, you know, you were told by Boeing, the aircraft can handle or can maintain a temperature in 4 different zones. All right.
Yeah.
Did we ever analyze this? No. So we had one gentleman who came in, and he made an aircraft thermal analysis, so what the aircraft can or cannot do. Of course, with this knowledge, we could go to the shippers and to the forwarders, and we give them totally something different, which they were interested in that they didn't know before. We have been one of the first carriers to have a GDP certification, and even the platform Luxembourg was one of the first in the world. We worked together with DuPont and created the air thermal cover, which a lot of people talk about it now. We started with one cover, and now DuPont has 3 different covers. So it was an exceptional journey. We retrofitted our aircraft with loggers. And of course, you know, you cannot just go as a young man. I used to go in my car, take off the seats, or take off the sides of the door, put nice boxes. There you cannot do it, but in an aircraft, if you want to have a logger, you cannot just do it. You need to work together with Boeing and point out where you can actually put this logger and where not. So I think it was a super journey of this. And of course, when I first went out to the customers, I realized myself, okay, you may have a gift to actually talk to people and to present something, but you need to be over 100% or sure about the operations. So I've started actually taking the operations person with me when we were going to the forwarders, and it was great. We were a team, right? I would say, if you oversell some sort of a science, or I oversell, you know, tell me something, and then years we build up something that I can sell pharmaceutical or that my people, the people in the ground can, and the people in the ground, they know that if I go to a customers, I will not oversell. Actually, Chris, it's so important to have a bridge between commercial and operations, because
exactly, Stavros. Exactly. Now, I'm just going to jump in there, because you gave such a wonderful account of what you've done in the company. I just want to get onto a few other topics, otherwise we'll be bombarded with people applying to join Cargolux and work for Stavros because they're so impressed.
Okay, thank you.
Now, one of the things that influenced your career was obviously that link as well. So you're, I would say, instrumental in that link between commercial and operations. And as you said, it's so important not to oversell something or to overpromise and undersell because of capability. Now, earlier on in your feedback, you mentioned about the first audit, the experience. Now, what I just want to say, and because it's a message I want to put across, in so many companies that I've worked with or for, senior management always want to have no findings. They always want to have a clean sheet. They always want positivity out of the audit. And I think they don't realize in many cases that the positivity that comes out of an audit sometimes is the amount of findings, because a finding means you've got an opportunity to improve. If nothing's found, you stay as you are.
Absolutely, we share this, and the people, the responsible person, for example, who's working in our logistics, is the director of logistics. When we had our first GDP certification, was a lot of paperwork.
Yeah.
And the good thing was, though, that really the findings, so you analyze, and where you were short, you realize, okay, I have something to do. I have to fine tune there. I have to do this. I have to trim that. So actually, yes, at the end of the day, I think it was a good process. We liked it to go through this process, because it gave us also complete feedback where we can do better. We can always do better. Of course, there is always sometimes a limit, but I think if you twist it, you can always do better. You can always find ways. That's the humankind.
Exactly. And I tell people, I say, look, if you go to a doctor's because you're not feeling well, and you walk in and he takes a look at you and says, well, everything looks okay, that's fine, come back in a year, you're not going to be too happy. Do you know what I'm saying? As
Absolutely.
painful as it is,
Yes.
you want to have all the insertions, the extractions, the x-rays, etc. You want to be sure that you've got a clean bill of health.
Absolutely. It's very, very important.
That's why it's so important. Now, taking it a little bit further. Now, obviously, you then started getting involved with the Cool Chain Association, and within the Cool Chain Association, you've got people from all parts of the supply chain, probably with a growing number of shippers. But you've got some private members, freight forwarders, truckers, airports, airlines. Now, I believe, Stavros, that airports are going to start taking a more prominent role in everything that goes on, and if not, primarily because of what's happening now at the moment with this coronavirus. And in the new normal, there has to be more standardization, because one of the things that's so important from a global perspective, if you get it right nationally now, you still have to communicate, you have to travel, you have to do business with other countries. So there has to be a big focus on collaboration. And I know you're a man who feels that collaboration is so important. So from the Cool Chain Association, how do you see the growing emphasis on collaboration developing?
Very, very much. And we've started it already 2 years ago when we had our Perishable conference in Luxembourg, in a really very nice place. Is a company, a Luxembourgish company, who is actually representing 1,100 products fresh from all over the world.
My God.
So we had it, we had the conference there, and of course, you know how in these conferences people are coming up, they're making a presentation, then you hear all these buzzwords. We need more transparency, we need more collaboration, we need more visibility. And then you go out of the conference and then you come back 6 months later and then you hear again, we need more collaboration. And so in this conference, I just felt, okay, as a chairman now, I have a little bit of power to stand up and say, okay, but so I stood up and said, okay, are you ready to collaborate? And you had airports there, you had airlines there. And then they looked at me like, what do you mean? I said, you said you need collaboration. So are you ready to share information with the supply chain? And sharing, I'm not talking about any commercial feedback. I'm talking about sharing operational stuff, how we can do things better. And then out of this, we had this first project coming up where we had an airline, Air France-KLM, we had Cargolux, we had Able, who is the freight forwarder, one of the big forwarder in Los Angeles, actually one of the biggest ones, which is turning around 100,000 tons of fresh every year. We had the ground handling agent Luxair, we had the Jan de Rijk as a trucking company. So what we have done is we said, okay, we are going to follow a shipment which is coming from Able Freight and going to a destination, be it with airline A or with airline B. And then we're going to follow it up. What we have done now, we followed now the temperature, and already the first 3 or 4 trials we have done, the findings was great. And I thought myself 15 years ago to share such, let's say, operational information with another airline, that does not happen. But 15 years down the line, so people actually realized it, and now we would like to take it to the next level. We would like also to find out, okay, what do we think it takes when goods are coming in an airport, and what is the real time, and try to find to optimize things. And out of this project also, that's where we as a Cool Chain, we felt very, very strong that we need to have also standards for perishables. On the pharmaceutical side, the standards keep on growing. Yeah. On the perishable side, quite often, if you take it from operation point, perishables are exactly the same like pharma in one way or the other. They have to be tracked with temperature control. They have to be handled in a temperature controlled environment. They have to be stored in a temperature controlled environment. So does the pharma. But the difference, of course, is that if something goes wrong and we need to discard the content of an aircraft pallet, pharma could go into $2 million, and perishables is maybe $50,000. So and then I always felt myself, it cannot be that we don't have standards for perishables, and that's what we are.
But I think,
really, yeah.
I think what you're saying, that's definitely going to come, and this coronavirus I think one of the things that's definitely going to come as well is the H that's in QHSS&E isn't just going to be health; it's going to be focusing as well on hygiene.
Absolutely.
So there's going to be another element that's going to come, and more demanding standards. Otherwise, there'll have to be restrictions because we can't afford for things like this, to happen and keep disrupting the whole world's economy. So I agree with you there.
And that's why I think also IATA Cargo IQ jumped with us. They would like to work with us in order to streamline the process also on their level. So I think it's great. Yeah,
exactly. And what we were talking about earlier with the collaboration on so many different levels. You've got collaboration between trade representations. We were talking about yourselves and Tiaka. Now you're talking about IATA. It's important I think for the industry as well as for the public to start to see that people are doing things in the same way so that there's consistency. And just one example, when you go through security over the years and you're in different airports, sometimes there's different airports in the same country. Yes. You've got different, take your shoes off, keep your belt on, put your pen in, you've got to take your ring off. People are thinking, well, what in God's name's going on? So, just to go over that again, obviously the importance of all the various trade representative groups collaborating and everybody actually collaborating is so important. And who knows, maybe in the future, and we've spoken about audits, maybe there'll be a collaboration section in the business continuity side of an audit because it's so important.
Absolutely.
One thing I want to take or put to you is with what's happened, and my God, we should probably say how impressed we are and give a bit of respect and recognition to all the care workers and the frontline workers who have done so much for every single country in such trying times. They're incredible. So the real heroes.
For me, I have to add to this. I'm getting now goosebumps because my daughter, she's 25 years of age, my little princess, as I call her, and I always told her that she's my hero. She's a nurse in the intensive care, and of course, if you get a photo from your daughter dressed up completely with the first COVID-19 patient, oh boy, that brings something in you, and then you realize, this is real, and your own child is there to help. So I think. For me, these are the heroes, but these heroes have been always there. And the message I would like to bring to all this world, to all the people in the world who listen to this podcast, big gratitude. Don't take everything for granted. They have been always there. We don't need a crisis only to clap our hands for the doctors, for the nurses, for the truck drivers, for the supply chain people. They have been always there. So we have to, I think, how can I say, we have not to take everything for granted and appreciate everything we have.
We were blinkered. And I've said on some of the shows that when you grow up, you see comics and films and you always see a hero with a letter or a cloak or a mask or whatever. And now we've got heroes with letters and masks.
Yes.
They really, really are putting themselves
absolutely
on saving lives. And please God, after this, no matter what religion, no matter what nationality, everybody should take a step back and say, do you know something? The one thing that stopped the whole world in its tracks was to do with health.
Yes.
And if we now don't start appreciating the people who keep everybody healthy, and when we're not, they look after us, and also the people who keep the things that we take for granted, the whole world, perishable, pharmaceuticals, all over the world. Those are the important things as we move forward. So
I'm with you.
We need to keep one eye on that. Also, you're a bit of a local hero as well. Now that you're looking after your mother, and I've been lucky enough to meet her.
Yeah.
We're saying how she's now even doing her exercises with you.
Yeah. I became she's in our place, and I became a little bit the physiotherapist of her. We're doing all kind of exercise in order to to keep her busy for breathing. And we started with 2 or 3 squats per day, and now she's doing 30 squats. So for a 79-year-old lady, fantastic. But she was very happy. So
that's fantastic.
And of course, we're all happy. The ones who still have our parents, I'm still now realizing also we should be even more happy for the ones who still are around us. Every day. So important. Yeah. Exactly. Thanks for asking that you remember her. That's very nice.
A lovely lady. You can see where you get your smile from. So
okay, thanks.
Now, another thing that's going to make people change when the new tomorrow or the new normal turns up is there wasn't so much emphasis or importance placed on risk and continuity and evaluating the risk register and looking at how mitigating actions, etc. Now, one of the things that you've experienced is if you're going to provide a secure supply chain for pharma or for perishable, you have to do a risk assessment. You have to evaluate what would happen if the power went. You have a backup generator. What happens in the perishable and cool facilities? All those different things that have to happen. Now, do you feel as well that people are going to look at things a lot differently in the new normal because the sustainability and the continuity is going to be ever so important?
I think my personal view is, let me think. I think the supply chain, people talk about the supply chain now a lot, while many people didn't even talk about the supply chain before. Not that they didn't care, but the supply chain all of a sudden is a word which is becoming more and more aware in the industry. And definitely, I believe that in the years to come, the producers of commodities which have to be shipped from A to B, they will have to review the supply chain. You can question now, just in time, is it going to be still possible? Nah. Or will we have to fine tune differently? So all these things, I think, definitely, they have to be reviewed. And even if the even if the lockdowns will become slowly better, and then, airlines will allow to fly, do we all believe that the airlines are going to be flying the same way like we used to be before the lockdown?
No.
So I said, if we would have a frequency from A to B 10 times, maybe now we're going to have 2-3 per day. Maybe we're going to have now 2 frequencies a day. So I think the supply chain will have, well, if I would be a producer of something, I will have to review it and say, okay, maybe I'm going to do 20% with them, 10% with them. So I think this will definitely change, in my view.
I agree, 100% agree with you. People are going to have to do that. And for a company to be seen to be, let's say, a respected company, it's going to be a little bit less on the shareholder value and the profitability, and it's going to be a lot more on the continuity and the sustainability of the company. And so those values are going to come in. So then we've got things like onshoring, nearshoring, so quotas, and also I think, and this is just my personal opinion, it's very dangerous for the world to allow itself to have all of its eggs in so few baskets. So that distribution is also going to change. So now that you're going to get less frequencies, there's also going to have to be more options. Yes. And that's going to change the way everything is perceived. Now, you said about just in time. Obviously, that in itself is a risk, because the principle is you let things go down as low as possible, so you save on all the other costs, and then bang. Now, I think there'll be more of a WMS, which is what makes sense after people have done a proper review of their business. And when you look at some of the things, on one side, you've got the P&L, so obviously it makes sense, but you look on the other side and it's fraught with risk and problems, etc. And I think there has to be a very, very, very new way of looking at the balance in the future.
Agree. I mean, again, I can only say I'm not on that level to speak, but what I feel is that what I've learned over the last 2 months is that everything what was taken for granted before and everything what we used to know before, all of a sudden,
gone.
Poof. Yeah. All of a sudden, as I said, you're locked down, and you see that also the company I'm working for the last 3 decades, we struggled in the beginning. Luxembourg is a small country. You have a lot of people from Germany, France, and Belgium coming to work, and all of a sudden, when the lockdown was, our ground handling agent was a shortage of manpower.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, it was also one of the most positive things I liked there was that government ports, the company from the railways cargo section, and other companies actually sent people to the cargo center to help maintaining the supply chain of Cargolux and the complete community around it. So I think for me this was great, but I'm sure people now will also take a learning out of it, how it's going to be in the future if another pandemic may happen again, and I'm sure it will happen because it looks like every 100 years we have a pandemic. By the way, but so will they learn something from it? I'm sure people will have to learn, and people will see their risks reviewed one more time. How do I do it? Do I go with a truck? Do I go with a sea freight? Do I go with an airline, with a passenger, with a cargo?
Yeah.
All these, I think, have to be reviewed, and I doubt that people will not learn from it.
I think this has been, well, please God, this will be one of the biggest lessons that every government, every country, and every individual will take something away, because you've got the environment. So you've got all the things that were little touchy-feely issues before. Now they're going to come into people's decision making. So the way the politicians have dealt with each other, the way countries are starting to deal with each other. And unfortunately, when things happen, there's always going to be a period of blame and reflection and hindsight, yes, which is a terrible thing to be following, but it's going to happen. So all of those lessons are definitely going to change. And what you said earlier about the reduction in just the capacity that was there 6 months ago, because of all the aircraft being retired early and people seeing an opportunity now to streamline their business to prepare it for the next decade plus with a different, yes, outlook, that's going to have a big impact. So we've already seen now what's going on freighters and now freighters with the passenger conversions, yeah, and it's incredible. And I did a podcast with the guys from Anchorage, and whilst we, yes, were on the podcast, they were explaining to me how many freighters were coming in, yes, and how many were departing just in that 1 hour period, and it was phenomenal. And that's probably three weeks ago, yes, and maybe a bit more. So the importance now of freighters and the possible rebirth of freighter importance, how do you feel that's going to materialize now over the next few years?
Yeah, as I said to you, for me, I know nothing about anything else. I only know freighters. Yeah. When I started with Cargolux, we had 3 aircraft. Now we have 30, and they're all 747. So for me, freighters have been always important. And in my presentations, I have been always also saying to the shippers, you need all mode of transportation. You need truck, you need passenger airlines, you need freighters. So, and I never went into this discussion, are the freighters more important than passengers? But I think I was very, very proud, and still am, in the beginning of the lockdown, that my company, I would say, was really a bit the link between Europe and Asia, sometimes I felt. And it was great to see these cargo planes flying. So yes, will they become more important? I think they have been always important. But I think maybe now, as I said, producers will review their supply chain, and freighters will be on their horizon. Yeah, maybe a bit more than it used to be before. That's to be seen. And maybe in 5 years, if we're still around, and I'm sure we will, we can call each other and say, so did it change something or not?
What happened? That'll be an interesting one. Yeah. We've also touched on the ground handling, and you explained the difficulty that happened there locally in Luxembourg because of the cross-border impact. But GHAs in general, I think they've really come into their own as well. Yeah. Their staff have stepped up. They've been there when, whether it be infrequently or frequently, there's aircraft landing with PPE or any other equipment that's urgently required, and the supply chain and everything. It makes people realise how important that part of the supply chain is, because on the news, what everybody's seeing now is airlines running very close to the edge of the cliff, and some requesting assistance, and some saying that they're okay for a while, etc. So that's where all the news. But there's very little heard about the handling agent. And for me, and I've worked on both sides of the fence, I'm sort of I've got a lot more sympathy and empathy, I think, now with the GHAs, and it's going to be so important that that relationship moving forward is going to be such that there's no David and there's no Goliath when things start to come out of this, you know.
I mean, it's like the supply chain is like I would say it's like a human body, right? If everything is functioning, it's great, but if you have an accident tomorrow and you lose a leg, then it's not the same. So I think yes, ground handling people, of course, they have been always important. You know, ramp handling, ground handling, they have been always there. But maybe I don't know. Sometimes how the world is. Maybe we see only the shining stuff first, and we don't see the dirty stuff on the back. But yes, and now I think that's why I said now it's like you said. I think now it has become more apparent. You know, even if an airline landing, you see these people with the yellow jackets coming there. You know, from the ground handling, taking off the pallets. Of course, that's why we all interlinked. One alone. I haven't seen a football team, you know, playing with one goalkeeper and a striker.
Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah.
I haven't.
No.
Right. But still, even if in a football game, we know the Cristiano Ronaldo because he is the one. But in order for Cristiano Ronaldo to be Cristiano Ronaldo, you have also some players on the back who help him actually to be who he is. So I think the same is in our industry. I will not now compare Cristiano Ronaldo with our industry. I'm just only saying that I think we're all interlinked, and that's I think the lesson I'm getting out of it.
Yeah, I think if we spoke to Cristiano Ronaldo, he'd say that it was you only needed a goalkeeper in him. But
yeah.
but that's one of the problems.
Yeah.
But I've got a friend who's quite high up, and we were having this discussion, and he's high up in a ground handling agent, and we were talking about the body functions like you just said, and he said that you know the airlines are the arms and the legs that get you from one place to another, and the better they are, the quicker you go, etc. And he was talking all, you know, really deep. I was thinking, where's this going? And then he said about the shippers being the brains, you know, they're the ones who need everything transported, and the forwarders being the heart, which is pumping everything and making everything work. And I said, yeah. I said, okay, fair enough. And he said, do you know where we are as the GHA? And I said, no, where? And he said, we're the bowels. And I said, yeah. And he said, and let me tell you, if the bowels don't work, you can't think, everything goes, you can't run, you can't do anything. He said, so we're the most important.
Yes, good.
And everybody's got a story of where they are.
Exactly, everybody has a story. Yeah. I just realized I had a Cristiano Ronaldo story now.
yeah, I'm sure. Now listen, people are also talking, and I've been saying it for a long time, from when it first started, for something to have such an effect on every single country, everywhere. It's incredible. So people have to start looking now at where they spend their money, what do they do with the environment, are weapons of whatever, submarines, warships, are they that important? All these things are going to change. But for the new normal, there are no experts at the moment, not even now, with how to open airports and can you have social distancing on aircraft. There was one clip on the news this morning of a passenger who took a picture on an Aer Lingus flight between Belfast and London, and it showed that the plane was almost full. Well, you've got scientists who say that the masks are good or bad or indifferent, social distancing, etc. But an airline can't operate on a third or a fourth, 40% or 50% if you're going to actually have social distancing to its full extreme. And even in countries, social distancing varies from 0.5 meter to 2 meters.
Correct.
So I don't think that's ever going to be the same. But if I was to ask you now, what do you think are going to be the new normal, unusual things that are going to become normal in the future?
Well, I said it when we talk here with my family. I said the world is not going to be for the next few years not the same anymore. The new normal will be, yes, that you were going to run with masks. The new normal will be that you have you will be having the distance of your colleagues. All this, what we don't know will be the new normality. But thanks God we are humans, and I think somehow one way or the other we're going to be able to cope with it and get out of it. So that's how we're going to. Now, right now, they will tell you, okay, you can go to a restaurant. Of course, the moment a human has fear, I don't think it will go to the restaurant. You know, it will maybe take a time. So, and again, you know, maybe we're going to talk in 3 months and everything is going to be different. But for the time being, my point of view, everything what we see right now will become the new normality. Masks, distance, hygiene, very, very important. You know, and by the way, hygiene has been always important. Now, you ask me, but if I have to say, okay, we are still the lucky ones. We still have water to clean and be hygienic.
Yeah.
But there are also countries in the world who don't have all this.
Yeah.
So again, you know, in the Western world, maybe we can say we have still everything. You know, right now, you know, we you know, we work from home. We have providers where we can talk to each other and can see each other. It's not the same, but imagine how was it 50 or 60 or 70 or 100 years ago? They didn't have all these things.
Yeah.
So that's going to be maybe the new normality. Maybe there will be more home office and so forth and so forth. And maybe if they're really going to discover a vaccine, then maybe the world is going to be the same again. But it's also nice. I was watching now last time in LinkedIn, no, in YouTube, a documentation about a gentleman, an English gentleman who lives 250 kilometers somewhere in India from Himalaya, that, you know, he could take pictures of the Himalaya. So this is another thing, you know, something they haven't seen for the last 30 years, or that you can see from Bergamo, you can see the sunrise from Milano, which is 100 kilometers away. So maybe this is going to be the new normality, that we have a wonderful planet, we have a wonderful world, and I think we need to take care of this planet. This is another thing. But of course, this is now maybe too philosophical, and I'm going, my personal wish, but this is a kind of message, you know, to see that we have a wonderful planet, we have wonderful things, and I think, and you see, Imagine Greta would have had something, you know, everybody was laughing about Greta, right? You know, this kid that's going around. Imagine now, look at this. If Greta was right, because if you see how the world is outside, the planet, you see the skies, everything is green. You hear the birds singing out there. Yeah. My wife asked me last time, do you think the birds are singing more? I said, no, I think we just listen to them much different, because there's less noise, less cars, less etc. Yeah. So the new world is going to be definitely different than what we see every day. It's going to become the normality. For how long? That's to be seen. I wish I would have a crystal ball.
Yeah, but I think the balance, and you mentioned the word fear, the balance between fear and care is going to be somewhere where hopefully it's going to be an improvement on anything that we had before. Yes. Now, coming back again to collaboration, whilst there's so much fear, yes, people just need to feel a bit more comfortable, a bit more confident. They need to see that things are being done in the same way, and they need to see that the data and the information that's being published is also having a similar interpretation. So again, coming back to what we said right at the very beginning about airports taking on a more prominent role, to be consistent with other airports that they want to service between, to make people happy. Now, we had another bulletin that was here earlier on in the week with Bournemouth Airport, who are doing thermal scanning. Mm-hmm. Now, you've travelled all over the world, you've done audits, I've been all over. I mean, thermal scanning has been around for a long, long time, but people were so taken by it as if it was going to be the panacea, yeah, which it isn't. And, you know, people have got to wait now for a proper vaccine or combinations of therapeutics, whatever it is. Until that happens, everybody should start doing things in the same way, so that the evaluations can be then compared and people can see. And then that will gradually become part of the decision making. So I was talking again to some people who love to go on crazy holidays. And what they said now is, as before, they would look at whether somewhere was safe, what the climate was like, you know, any potential natural disasters or whatever it is. Now they're going to look at the time that they're going to be away and all of the controls that get them from their house to the destination and back, which will have fewer people involved. So that decision-making process is going to be so influenced by fear. Now, with regards to who to choose to carry their goods, so whether it's perishables or pharmaceuticals, also it's not going to be so much fear for companies, but it's got to be more risk and continuity. So again, I think one of the benefits from this is that certain standards, and we've spoken that you need standards for certain things, and definitely there's going to be some enhanced and more demanding hygiene standards. People who are used to regulatory conditions like we are in the aviation industry, it's going to come a little bit easier, but we're going to have to be open-minded and receptive of audits, self-assessments, spot checks, verifications, validations, etc. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. I mean, from on the pharmaceutical side, it's happening. It's there. It's well accepted. But sometimes I say, we have shippers from pharmaceutical companies together with a logistic provider who are coming to audit us. But I haven't had an auditor coming to check how we handle papayas or mangoes, right? Yeah. So we're doing it. As I said, we in Cargolux, know nothing about, on the passenger side, we are a real cargo carrier, but I think standardization is something which needs to happen also on the perishable side, because the pharmaceuticals are coming into our body, and the perishables are also coming into our body. And I think they need some way of standardization. So for example, I hope that sometimes you see a master verbal is written, keep cool whenever possible. What
does whenever
mean? Right? Yeah. Keep cool whenever possible. It means if I'm not possible at all, then I'm not keeping it cool. And keep cool what? Keep cool 15, keep cool 8, keep cool 2 degrees centigrade. Yeah. So all these things. And I think if we can get a standardization on that, that would be great. Because you see, the moment the GDP for pharmaceuticals, or let's say companies and ground handling agents started to get this type of certification, when the CAB kicked in, you see all of a sudden a lot of airports and a lot of ground handling, with all due my respect, they're really investing. They're really taking taking it serious, right? Whether it's Miami, whether it's Frankfurt, whether it's Luxembourg. I mean, a lot of airports and especially ground handling agents have done big investments, and I think it only happened because you remember what was the standard of the standardization of the pharmaceuticals? A master label and the temp label. And the temp label alone, it took 3 or 4 years to discuss, and the big question was who's going to pay for that. Now, for me, it was clear. We have a master label level which sets the temperature transportation range, and we have the label which is actually supporting this master label level. Even though it sounds very simple, I hope that at least on the perishable side, we're going to have the same standard.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I also think that from a procurement perspective and the supply chain, the way it goes from one stone to another stone to another stone to get across the river of supply chain, that also needs to change. And the shippers have to take more interest in the upstream decision making as to who they give their products to and how well they're handled, not just on price.
If I would be a producer of something, at least I would decide who my supplier is, yes.
All the way through.
All the way through, and not only halfway.
Exactly. So hopefully, and I know some of the people, including after they're looking at it with regards to smart facilities and various other initiatives, it's important that people can see exactly what happens to it all the way through. Not that they know that they're giving it to a particular representative of theirs who then makes a choice to give it to a carrier, who then makes a choice to give it to a GHA, who then goes through the same process for the trucking company or whatever. It must be compliant all the way through.
Absolutely. And I always say, in crisis, there will be some commodities who are the winners, but also in crisis, you have heroes who are born. So I think there will be people coming out of it, which gonna, I'm sure, show us maybe to see the world and the way we're doing business maybe from a different angle. And I think this is very, very important also.
100%. And that brings us back to almost where we started, which was to do with collaboration and change. And everybody now has to change. And the more collaboration, the more successful that change will be.
Absolutely.
Stavros, been an absolute pleasure, my friends. It's always a pleasure. And I believe I'm going to start using your name a little bit more, the messenger of good news. I think that's a wonderful, wonderful interpretation.
Thank you so
And
much.
every time I've ever met you, I always go away with a smile on my face. So I'm always happy.
Thank you for having me in your show, and thank you for letting me express some of my feelings also. And I have to admit that you're also a wonderful way of host. You make us feel good the way you ask the question. So I think this is great.
No, that's very easy, my friend. And I think what you said earlier about getting a career in Cargolux, I think they're very lucky to have you, as is the call chain. So look forward to seeing you again soon, Stavros. And I'm looking forward to your mother hitting 50. When you do, give me a ring. Huh?
All right. Thank you so much.
All right. Take care, my friend.
Bye-bye.
God bless. Stay safe.
See you too. Bye.
Cheers.